Hi, this is Aaron and Linda with Traveling Flamingo, and we have several news stories to wrap up the week. The CDC has finally announced that it's going to make changes to its current conditional sale order, and what's happening in Florida these days. All of that coming right up.
The CDC has not made it easy for cruising to resume. We have had lots of chats and discussions and in the comments about what's happening and how so many other areas and industries have been able to open up, but cruising has had some serious hoops to jump through.
Definitely. On Wednesday, the next two phases, 2B and 3, were announced that cruise lines need to follow to be able to start test cruising and then apply for a COVID-19 conditional sales certificate. So this sounds very easy. The CDC has identified the importance of vaccines and commented that not all cruise companies have made vaccines mandatory. They do recommend that all employees and port and the crew members and passengers have their vaccines.
So we are now a step closer to seeing cruising from US ports and getting those simulated sailings started. Actually, it states that cruise lines which can prove that the majority of crew and passengers have been vaccinated are actually allowed to skip those test sailings. This would be a huge incentive for cruise lines to make vaccines mandatory.
So what we all want to know, what are the requirements from the new Phase 2B and 3? We know this is a big one. Masks are going to be required unless a passenger is eating, drinking, or in their cabin. Many of us hoped that masks would not be required, but we'll need to have them on during things like being on the pool deck, for example.
Oh, that's going to be some epic tan lines. So on the pool deck, you need to wear the mask, but if you're swimming, you don't need to wear it. But in the water, you do need to maintain social distancing. Physical distancing actually is our next requirement we're going to be talking about. This is not new, but we will be seeing changes in the theaters, casinos, as there will be limited capacities. And passengers are also encouraged to be taking the elevator, not take the elevator, but actually be using the stairs.
It's a lot of stairs on those ships.
We do also see distancing on the pool deck, as loungers are going to be 6 feet apart unless you're in the same party.
And I mean, most of the time when you're on one of those things, the loungers are not like you can't even get between the loungers half the time.
They're right next to each other. And the demand for them, right?
Yeah.
So we're seeing, already cruise lines saying with cruising in Caribbean, I'm going to be interested to see if they're doing that.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. There is no surprise that the CDC is pushing for the end of buffets. We have already discussed this a lot, and you won't see any self-serve food or drink. Perhaps we'll see more prepackaged options that allow you to grab and go, or family style like you see at Disney, where they kind of just give you the buffet as a big plate and you can have as much as you want.
Yeah, I think the grab and go is an interesting idea. I mean, it's going to be a lot more packaging and garbage, but at least then, you can take it to an area which is not as busy.
Yeah, and I mean, half the time you see people with trays with exposed food. Not that that's a problem, but they spill it. And at least if you have containers, how many times have you seen people's food in an elevator for some reason because they didn't take it back or anything, right?
Now, in terms of shore excursions, this will be similar to what we saw in Europe last year. You do need to be on an organized tour with the cruise agency. There will not be opportunities to get off and explore the port on your own. And we know that there's a lot of people who are really disappointed by that. They do enjoy going and exploring on their own. But I mean, as an opportunity to get back, I would take it. So I would be doing an excursion. But I do understand for a lot of people how that is very disappointing. Actually, there was even a story last year from Europe of a passenger who wandered off from their tour group and they were actually not permitted back on board. So this is very serious and it's no joke. They do not want to have any issues on the cruise ship.
Yeah, I mean, it's still a pandemic and, the cruise agencies, you saw what happened with, I think it was the Diamond Princess, with the first COVID cases on that cruise ship. You don't want that in the news, right? So you got to do what you can. Otherwise, you're not going to be sailing again. The next one is huge. They are recommending wearable recording technology like proximity bands We were surprised to hear this. They want to be able to contact trace passengers so they know when you are not adhering to social distancing rules, which is interesting. I know our phones track us, and of course Disney does with their magic bands, but it hasn't quite been used like this to ensure that we're physically distancing. I'll be interested to sort of see what the end user license agreements and privacy statements are when this comes out, because I mean, if you need some bedtime reading, those end user license agreements and privacy statements are great, but it's interesting. Like, how are they collecting the data? How are they using the data? I don't know. It creates a whole new category of problems, I think.
Yeah, I think that, hearing just with a lot of requirements, restrictions that are being put in place on people and everything else, I don't think that people are going to want to be traced to know when they are not following distancing. And I think that in terms of like, okay, you're choosing to go on a cruise, you're an adult, you can make that decision. Hey, I don't mind when Disney wants to track me to bring me my food. Yeah. That's all good. You want to bring me food. But I think in terms of this tracing to penalize you, I think I'm just interested. I'm really interested.
Well,
I'm sort of understanding
how are they going to penalize you? Right?
Yeah.
Like, what are they going to do?
I'm still processing it. Like, we only just found out about it this week. So let us know in the comments below. What are your thoughts? What do you think some of the sort of problems or...
It seems like one of those statements that they made to be ambiguous and like no one's going to be able to support, and it gives them an excuse to fail them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, maybe that's it.
It just seems weird. Like, I don't know. Like there's tracing for stuff, but it's not as accurate. So yeah. I don't know.
I don't know. Okay.
It's an odd requirement.
On to our next story. What the is happening in Florida? It's only been a month ago that Florida and Alaska were suing to get cruising back this summer. Well, with Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, he signed an executive order banning COVID-19 passports in Florida. So this order prevents businesses from requiring proof of a COVID vaccine. DeSantis says that in Florida, your personal choice regarding vaccines will be protected and no business or government entity will be able to deny you services based on your decision.
Yeah, however, this order goes directly against what the CDC has announced this week. For cruise lines to skip the test cruises, they need to prove that 98% of the crew and 95% of passengers have been vaccinated. So I have no doubt that I'm sure that there's going to be lawsuits to process this, because in the end, they're saying that you can open up cruise lines if you have a vaccination and most of the people are vaccinated. And then they're saying, well, they're not going to be able to mandate vaccines. So how can you do anything out of Florida, right? It just makes no sense. It's the opposite of, like, obviously Ron DeSantis and the cruise industry in Florida want the cruise industry to open, but on the flip side, they're now making it harder to open the cruise industry.
This order is going to be an issue, and we're already seeing that. As a result, the Norwegian Cruise Line CEO Frank Del Rio has said that the company could suspend sailings from Florida. Del Rio said, at the end of the day, cruise ships have motors, propellers, and rudders, and God forbid we can't operate in the state of Florida for whatever reason, then there are other states that we do operate from, and we can operate from the Caribbean for a ship that otherwise would have gone to Florida. And as Aaron said, this is a battle between the state, what the state says, and what the federal government has said. And it's been a real tough challenge to get cruising started this year, and it's clear from the expectations from the CDC, that this is definitely going to put a bump in the road. Like, we've just got, what we need to get going after how long, and now...
Yeah, absolutely. I'm 100% sure that other cruise lines are going to follow, right? I mean, you already see it with Royal Caribbean, where they've got some that they're going out of the Caribbean only. So what do you think? Do you think this is the right move, or will cruise lines just wind up going elsewhere now, and Florida is going to be out of that? We know, we've heard a lot of arguments for requiring vaccines and understand the challenges, and some people can and some people can't. And, we know there's a lot there. There are people who chose not to get vaccinated for a variety of good reasons, and we understand DeSantis standing up for that. I wonder what all the cruise port employees also in Florida are going to be thinking about this, because it's such a big cruise industry. And if these ports aren't going to be getting those ships, then that's unfortunate for those people who have been sort of stuck not working because of COVID, right? So
It is definitely going to have a significant impact on Florida if these cruise ships do start to sail.
My guess
somewhere
is
else.
there's just going to be lawsuits to stop it, right? Like my guess is that it's not going to be constitutional. Now, full disclaimer, we're not American, we're Canadian. However, my guess is it's going to be deemed non-constitutional somehow. And
Yeah, I think we just, we've got a couple step forwards. I'm glad to hear that the CDC, they put out the conditional no sail order so long ago, but the state cruising industry still wasn't able to start because they weren't able to get approved. Anyway,
Yeah.
So we finally now have what we need. So hopefully, it's going to be tight to get it going for early summer, maybe later in the summer, or seeing a lot out of the Caribbean.
yeah, I think it's more realistic it's going to be out of the Caribbean. Like, I think if you want to get on a cruise ship in the foreseeable future, it's just going to be leaving. I'll be interested, though, if anything booked in Florida is going to move to the Caribbean and how they're going to handle that, right? So we have a few bookings in summer, and I wonder if they're going to push those to the Caribbean and just be like, hey, your departure points changed, but the cruise is still available, or if they're going to like refund you and you're going to have to book on a different cruise, right?
Yeah, I'll see the nightmare that will cause.
Yeah, like I think it'll just be a logistical challenge.
Yeah.
I don't think it'll be a big one. Like if I were the cruise industry, I would simply just say your destination port's changed. Your cruise is still on. You're flying out of the Caribbean.
Yeah, yep.
So.
But thank you so much, everybody who has watched our video, made it this far in
Yeah.
the video. We appreciate that.
And what do you think? We gave a bunch of our opinions, and I'm sure most of them aren't going to be right, but that's,
Let us know in the comments below. And thanks again for watching. Hopefully soon. Happy travels.